Hey everyone, thanks for stopping by. Well, as you can see, we've got a Honda ST90 that I've rolled up onto the table. And I've got it up here for two reasons. One, I want to remove the engine out of this bike, and it's actually going to be installed into that black bike over there. And then the second reason that we're doing this video, well, the real reason we're doing the video is I want to talk about the cradle or the bracket that I made to be able to install an aftermarket engine into an ST90 frame. If you're not super familiar, most of the 90cc Hondas, the ST90, the CL90, the SL90, a lot of those, they use a completely different engine mounting pattern. They use 3 bolts instead of 2, like the CT70 or the Z50 use. I'll zoom in here a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty close right there. So as you can see, what I've put in here, this is a Lifan 125cc semi-automatic engine that then I bought a big bore kit from TB Parts and installed it onto that bottom half. And so I think it's 141 or 142 cc is what they advertise it. I did this 6 or 7 or 8 years ago, built this engine. And to be able to put one of these engines into this frame, it's not a direct bolt up, and I did not want to modify the frame in case by some very slim chance down the road myself or somebody else wanted to put an original ST90 engine back in it. When I got this bike, I did not get an engine. It was just a roller. I did not get an engine with it. So anyway, so like I said, I did not want to modify the frame. So I sat and I looked at it and I looked at it and looked at it, took a bunch of measurements, and the ST90 frame is actually about 3/8 of an inch wider on the inside than a CT70 frame is at the engine mounting points. So I got looking at it and I went the route of building this cradle. It's got a plate on this side, and then there's a plate on the other side, and that bolts to the frame, and then welded to those 2 plates are, this got a little tab on it that then catches the 2 mounting holes for the engine. And then I probably overthought it a little bit, but this plate is 1/8 of an inch thick. The one on the other side is 1/4 of an inch thick, and that makes up that 3/8 of an inch. And that's what I went with to get the right offset for the chain to run, my sprockets to run in a straight line. I probably could have went 3/16 on this side and 3/16 on the other side and made them both equal thickness, and it probably would have been just fine. But you know, 7 or 8 years down the road, I'm kind of laughing at myself because why did I cut that out of 2 different thicknesses of material? But I did. So anyway, so that's what today's video is actually going to be about. You know, it's 2022, almost 2023. Forums are pretty much dead, but I still visit. There's a forum on the internet called lilhonda.com, and I still visit it once a week or so. And there is a thread on there currently going on the different options for mounting an aftermarket engine into an ST90 frame. And guys are, you know, all sharing what they did, you know, just making little tabs, re-drilling holes in the frame to get things to fit and so forth. So I joined that discussion and posted a couple pictures of the cradle that I made. And I want to, since I need to take this engine out and I want to use it in another frame, it's a good opportunity to get some good pictures and some footage of that cradle. So that's what I'm going to do today is yank that out of there. As you can see, the way I've done it lowers the engine away from the frame a little bit here. Some people might not like that. I actually, to me, it was an advantage. By lowering the engine, that means you're lowering the foot pegs, and by doing that, that means your feet are lower. Your knees are, or my knees anyway, were in a much more comfortable riding position. I didn't feel like my knees were up in my chest. So I know some may not like this look of having that gap, but for me it worked out pretty well, and I liked it. Also, if you do this, I use the original ST90 pegs, which do not bolt directly to, do not have the same bolt holes as the Lifan or a CT70 peg mounting pattern on the bottom. So I actually had to make an adapter down here at the bottom to put the pegs on, which actually lowered them down another 1/2 inch from the bottom of the engine. So yeah, so that worked out pretty well. I know the video is not really about the bike, but like I said, it's a Honda ST90. They made it for about 3 models, a K0, K1, and K2. This is the first model, the K0. I'm not a real big expert on these. I've had a few over the years. I'm down to just a couple of them, this one, and I have another one that's identical to it, a parts bike. I sold off all the other ones a few years back. It's just not a, I didn't have one of these as a kid. I didn't get an ST90 until I was an adult, and so I don't covet it. It doesn't really, I don't, it doesn't have any deep meaning to me. And the whole wire wheel thing is, I don't know, just, it's all right. But yeah, I grew up on a Trail 70, and that's what I prefer. So this one, taking the engine out of this and making it a non-runner, I'll probably put an engine back in it one of these days. But anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and get the engine yanked out of that, and then bring you guys back, and we'll take a closer look at that cradle. I know that someone is going to ask me about the adapter I made for the foot peg, so I might as well just go ahead and show it. I took 2 pieces of steel. Let me get it up there closer to the camera. Oh, I might not have long enough arms. I might have to zoom you back out here a little bit. All right. So 2 pieces of steel, 1/4 of an inch thick each. The top one cut out, and then this is the whole pattern that matches the bottom of the Lifan engine. Okay. Then I took a second piece of 1/4 inch steel, and it has the whole pattern that matches the ST90 peg. So luckily, they both used the same distance here. They were just a little, the ST90 is just a little longer horizontally here. So I took the longer piece, the piece that matches the holes for the ST90, and as you can see, I stuck 2 bolts up through there, and I welded the heads to them. And then I drilled out and recessed the holes so that I could put some Allen heads in there. So essentially, this thing goes up against the bottom of the engine, and the Allen heads went up, 2 of them, here and here, and those held it to the bottom of the engine. And then I was able then to put the foot pegs one way or the other. I think it went this way. Something like that. I might have bent it or something, trying to get it out. Anyway, so they fit, and bolted, put nuts on the bottom of these, and ran bolts all the way through here, all the way up, and attached to the engine. Ignore this other bolt. That's just a random bolt I welded on there later when I used that exhaust just to catch the mount on that exhaust. But Anyway, that, in case somebody asked me, that's how I put the foot pegs on there. All right, so you can see I've got the engine obviously uninstalled, and you can see the bracket here. At the bottom, I used a piece of round tubing that the original engine bolt would go through, and it is welded between the two plates to kind of hold them together. Up here, I've just got two short bolts that just go between the plate and the frame on each side. Same thing up here. Couple short bolts that just hold the bolt the plate to the frame. And then this little bracket that catches the top mounting hole on the aftermarket engine, it goes up and it's bent at a 90 and goes over and is welded to this other plate. So the whole unit is kind of tied all together. So let me go ahead and grab some wrenches and I'll take all those out and let's pull that cradle out and get a better look at it. All right, so I've got all the mounting hardware out. I think the coil wire's the only thing really holding it up in there. And there it is. Oh, you can't see it. But that's what I made. Okay, it looks like that little piece had to be bent over. It probably just did it when I bolted it. It pulled it over. But let's take it over to the engine. Now, I didn't modify the engine at all, to the best of my knowledge. You know, I didn't mess with either one of these mounts. Yeah. And it just sat on there, just something like that. And like I said, I didn't take a lot of time to, you know, if I really wanted to do this nice, I would probably got this to where it conformed to the shape of the engine a little bit better, so you didn't have these big gaps and so forth. But, you know, I really wasn't worried about that at the time. I noticed that this piece has got this notch out of it. I'm not really sure. Oh, did I do that for the, I probably did that to clear the breather. No? Got plenty of room there. I think I might have cut that out to clear this breather tube. So I can't think there'd be any reason in the frame that I would have needed to cut that out. But we'll take a look here real quick. That should sit below the frame. Yeah, I'm guessing I cut that out to clear that breather tube. But you can see that, you know, I used two different thicknesses. I used 1/4 inch on the right side and 1/8 inch on the left side. And like I said earlier, that offset the engine, what I felt the correct to get the sprockets all to line up. So there you go. That's how I mounted a Lifan 125 in an ST90. So I'm not sure what measurements somebody would need off of that. Hang on just a second. It looks like from the original mounting hole to where I did it about 1 3/8 inches. And I don't know if there was any real math to that. Yeah, if I'd went too much shorter, it would have been into the frame. So these two holes are about 1 3/8 inches. I really think I cut out this bracket and this one, bolted them, you know, I bolted them in there. I probably tacked that tube in there, and then this piece was the final piece that was put on there, trial and error, trying to get it to line up. But anyway, that was just my version of how to mount a Lifan into an ST90. So hopefully that helps somebody. And like I said, you could probably go with just 3/16 on both sides. I doubt that 1/16 of an inch is going to make a difference, but you might check that out. All right. Thanks, guys. Everybody have a great day.